Hi everyone, my name is Will, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the PCV valve on V6 equipped Kia Stinger GT models. So in case you're wondering what the PCV valve is, PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation, and this valve is part of the PCV system, and the purpose of this system is to help vent gases that naturally get produced from the combustion process. These gases are called blow-by gases, and you want to get them out of the engine because if they linger around too long, it can cause leaks and other drivability issues. And so the valve helps facilitate that venting. And when these blow-by gases are vented, it gets fed into the air intake, and then it gets used to keep the engine running. So in older vehicles, these blow-by gases used to get vented out into the environment, but nowadays it's not ideal to have that happen. So it's an emissions control system, but it's also a system that helps support fuel efficiency. So you want to replace this, or at least inspect the part maybe every 60,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers. I just passed 100,000 kilometers on my 2020 Stinger GT, and when I pulled out the old valve and I tried to shake it, there's supposed to be a mechanism inside that moves freely. That's how you know the valve is still good. In my case, when I was shaking it, the valve did not move at all. So I was glad that I checked it and that I ended up replacing it. It's not a very expensive part. It's not too difficult to do, as you'll see. And please keep watching to learn how to replace it. So where is the PCV valve, you may wonder? It is on the opposite side of this hose. So it kind of goes down and then loops towards the front. And so we're going to be removing this hose first to begin the job. All right, so this is the part that we need. I recommend getting it from the dealer. It's under 20 bucks Canadian, so it's not that expensive. And the tools we'll need are a pair of pliers with a telescoping head and a 14mm gear wrench. And I highly recommend a gear wrench because it's kind of a tight space. It's just going to make the job easier. You'll see later on. And this is how the gear wrench is going to go on the valve. So it goes on the valve body and then you turn it. And before you start, I recommend covering the fender with some sort of a cover. So you can use a microfiber towel, or in my case here, I have a fender cover, just so you won't scratch the paint because you'll be leaning over. So we start by removing the clamp on the hose. You just squeeze that hose clamp and you just push it back a little bit. And then you got to get this hose off. It's kind of tight, so I'm going to show you a trick. So you got to get your pliers, just got to turn it a little bit just to get it moving, just to break the seal. And then you got to get it off. And you can spray some WD-40 on it too if you need to get it off easier. But eventually it comes off. You just need a bit of extra elbow grease. Okay, and then once we get that off, you pull that out of the way. And then on the bottom there, we need to get to that hose clamp there, which is attached to the PCV valve. So we're going to get our trusty pliers again. And this is basically what we're going to be doing down there. So you just have to get it in position. You can see why the telescoping head's important. It's just, it helps you maneuver better. And so you just got to get it in position and squeeze the clip and then pull it back. And then that way you can pull it off the PCV valve, okay? So let's see how it works. So this is how it goes. You somehow got to get it in. You're not going to get it the first time. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but just keep persisting. You just got to pull the hose out of the way there, and eventually you'll get it. Persistence wins here. So I got it there, as you can see. So you just got to squeeze and then pull it towards the windshield. Okay, and then once you get that off, you got to pull this insulation. It's like an insulation cylinder, and then once you get the hose and the insulation cylinder off, that's your valve there. So this is where we're going to be using our gear wrench. So just got to get it in position, and we're going to be turning it towards the driver's side. So we're in North America, so we're left-hand drive. So that's counterclockwise, and it's not on too tight. It loosened pretty easily, and the wrench wasn't that long, so it wasn't on there too tight. So you just got to keep going. You can take off the cover, the engine cover there if you want. I didn't need to. And once you get it loose enough, you can get it off with your hands. Eventually it comes out. And that's how it looks. There's that brown crud is just some condensation because it's winter right now in Canada. So we're going to be replacing it with the new one. But before we do that, you want to clean the mating surface just as a best practice. So that's where the PCV valve threads into. You just want to get a clean cloth and then just wipe off the surface there before we put the new one in. Pretty easy. And so when you're ready, this is our new PCV valve. Just give it a shake. Just make sure that there's something inside that it moves freely. And then you're ready to thread it in. So you want to start by threading it by hand, okay? You just want to make sure that it goes in fairly smoothly before you grab the gear wrench to start tightening, okay? And this is where the gear wrench is useful. You're going to see in a bit, because you're going to be able to ratchet back and forth without having to constantly pull it out and turn, right? If you were just using a regular wrench, you can see that, nice and easy. So you want to keep going until you feel some resistance, and then see where my index finger is? The trick is just to use the index finger and keep turning until it stops moving. So you don't really need a torque wrench. You don't need to be that fancy, but that's all you need to do, and that's tight enough. So once that's done, you put your insulation cylinder back on, and then we're going to be putting the hose back onto the new PCV valve. So here's the hose. So the smaller diameter part is going to be going back into the valve. So you just have to position it properly, and then you want to make sure when you press in that it's nice and flush, okay? Just examine carefully, look at it up close, just make sure that the insulation cylinder and the hose are flush. And after that, we just need to put the hose clamp back on. So installation is the reverse of removal. Okay, so once that's in position, you fit the other side onto the port there that goes into the intake. So you just got to wiggle it back on, and you want to make sure that's flush too before you put the clamp back on. And that's all she wrote. Pretty easy.